All right. So we're done with the topology. Fantastic. That was not the most exciting part of it, and strangely enough, I actually like doing UVs more. Yeah, topology is probably the thing that I hate the most. But now it's behind us all, and boy, does it feel good. All right. So what we are going to do now is, well, as you can see, I have deleted everything that I didn't need to have maximum uh, usage of my texture sheet. So I did a quick planar, UV planar projection, and of course it looks like nothing, but that's alright. It's just we just did it so that we can see all the different pieces and kind of like split them up and spread them around the UV sheet. So we want to start with the big pieces first. That's always the most important. Those are the hardest to place because this is all the game of puzzle. So you want to use as much place as possible. You want to waste as little texture space as possible. And but there are some things that you can't do. You can't rotate certain pieces in certain angle because it's a bad idea. So for example, I would never have the head upside down. That would be kind of like a weird way to work. And there are some cons to doing that too. So yeah, the same way I want the pants with the bottom of the pants at the bottom, and kind of like do the same thing for everything else. So there are some certain objects that it doesn't really matter what angle you place them in, but for the most part you want it the way that it is in the world. So yeah, so that being said, you have to unfold everything in a way that will use as much as the texture space as possible. So UVs is one of those things where everybody do it, like, I don't know, like the majority of the people do the UVs bad. Hey, there we go. So just a quick intermission here. Maya crashed, so a fatal error. What's cool with Maya though is that it always, while it crashes, it always saves your file. So yeah, I panicked for a little bit, but no big deal. I had extra saves anyway, and I just reopened the latest save, which was basically while it crashed. So that file is all good. It looks like it usually is. Yeah, so we're gonna resume. Yeah, so what I was saying is UVs is I guess UVs are hard because people do them all wrong. It's especially to be good at UVs when you do environment, because you want things to be very straight. You want things to be effective. You want things to be economical. You don't want to waste space ever, and that same goes for characters really. But yeah, characters, just because the shapes are organic doesn't mean that you can be sloppy with your unwraps. So I'm going to show you guys how to properly do it. So anything that is similar to a cylinder, so everything like a leg, the boot, the arm, all those things are basically like complex cylinders, right? And what you want to do when that is the case is you want to unfold them in a square or a rectangle. So the way it is right now, that's not good. So I want to straighten those out on the edges there, and I want to make those verts align as much as possible. So as you can see, that's what I'm going to be doing here. So I snap them vertically so that they are at the same height on both sides of my mesh. So this way, for example, if I do like a projection or something, I will be able to project across the seam properly without any problem, because those verts are the same. They are at the same place. If I do a seam that goes around the leg, the seam will line up. Especially if I do the seam like in Photoshop afterwards, if it wasn't baked and I want to add in some details in there, I can just add vertical lines, horizontal lines in Photoshop afterwards or whatever, and they'll still match as long as they match in the UVs. So that's the reasoning behind this. So yeah, it's just a really good practice to always have squares, or have like yeah, squares as much as possible, squares or rectangles. So one thing that's really important also, you don't want this, you don't want to do this blind. So what I always do is you go and assign a new texture to your material, and in this case I just grab the checker. You know, some people have some funky map to detect if the faces are inverted or not or whatever. But in my case, I checked before and everything's good, so don't need that. Like a basic checker pattern works great. And what I do is increase the values from 4 to 20 so that it repeats more often, so that the squares are not as big. And I increase the quality also to 248 by 248 so that the squares are not blurry, they're pretty sharp, so I can see better how did it form. And the theory behind this, kind of the same theory as topology. You want all those squares in the texture, all those, that checker pattern, to be as square as possible and as even as possible all over the body. So it would be a very bad example if you know, the torso had big squares and then the legs had tiny squares. That would mean that you gave more texture space to your legs, and I can't possibly see a reason why that would be a good idea, unless your character's mainly legs. I don't know. You wanna take whatever is going to be seen the most. So that is again a per project thing to think about. So you know, if you are looking at a like a MOBA game, or you know, I don't know, like a strategy game, or things where the viewer is going to be looking at your models from the top, then you want to have more to have more texture space allocated there. If it's a, you know, like a strategy, and not strategy game, if it's an action game, kind of like what this character is for, you want, and basically what that means is that you're gonna walk around in the city like a game or something, and then you're gonna see that character, right? You're gonna see the entire character from the front. So meaning that you can't really be too cheap, but most of the time, if you get close to a character, the camera is going to be at eye level, right, with other characters. So generally speaking, you'll be looking at that character's upper half a little bit more. So that's one indication for you to possibly spend a little bit more texture there. So to have your pieces that are, you know, part of the upper body take a little bit more room. So the squares, you know, if you look, that would translate basically as the squares in the viewport being a little bit smaller, you know, as you go towards the top of your character. So as you go towards the face. And then the face, of course, being the focal point of your character. In this particular case, you want the density to be the biggest there. So I will take a lot of space with the face so that the squares are going to be really, really small. The checker pattern is going to be really small in the face, as opposed to everything else. And everything else is going to be pretty much the same size, hopefully. So you could have a gradient, you know, like gradually going from like a small squares to slightly bigger squares as you move down towards the feet. But yeah, you know, you could. It's not necessary. In this case, I'm just gonna try to eyeball it and make sure that all my squares are the same. So doing UVs in Maya, I just use the basic UV editor because it's pretty robust and it allows me to do pretty much anything. You know, there are some other features in other programs that are pretty cool. Like you can see you can let it do its own thing. Actually, you can do that in Maya now too. I just have an older version of Maya, which it's just not there yet, I guess. But yeah, like the tools that I use really are super simple. To unfold, I just do unfold. There's like this thing here. If you look at the menu, you go like polygons, and it'll be in the menu, just polygon unfold, and it will unfold whatever you have selected. The only problem with that tool is that it's never that great. Like the first time you do it, it'll unfold, but it'll be kind of crap. So when you unfold things, it's very, very important to have like anchor UV points. So that will be really handy when I do the hands for a little bit later. You'll see. But let's say I want to unwrap something. Like right now, what I'm doing with the leg is I'm just cutting it up. Right now it's just one piece, so I'm gonna cut it up, and I just did an unfold right there, right? So that's the result. So it's not terrible, but there's one side that's a little bit smaller than the other one. This particular one, the result was kind of bad. So what you do is just you move things around, the way you think they should be, and then you select a bunch of verts, you unfold, you select a bunch of verts, you unfold, you can move it around again, and then unfold again. And when unfold really doesn't do what you want, it's always good to use anchor points. You'll select like 2 points on your UV island. You'll place them where you think they should go, at the distance they should be, whatever. Or maybe you'll select more points. If you're unwrapping a square, for example, you can just select the corners of the square, line them up like I'm doing right now, kind of thing, and you select basically everything except the 4 corner UV points, and then you do an unfold, and it should unfold really, really nicely. So kind of like that. So now if I look at the squares on my leg, it's not the best, but at least they're lined up, right? Like the shape that I have, the UV island that I have, is a lot closer to a rectangle than it used to be, which is good. So sometimes it's best to have textures that line up like that, as opposed to having squares be the exact same size everywhere. It's just like trade-offs. So yeah, within the shape, I'm gonna try to line those up, make it as nice of a square as possible. So the boot here is a little bit pushing it because the calf area is like clearly thicker than the ankle area. So you'll get a clear distinction in sizes of checker pattern there, but that's not too big of a deal. It's the legs, so it's not that bad. In this case, the priority, at least my priority, was to have a nice unfold, regardless of how much it kind of stretches the squares a little bit. As long as things are straight, it's always better. It's always a better case scenario. When you do the UVs, another thing to really consider is to cut. So when you do your cuts, hide them as much as possible. So try to think of how this model is going to be seen in game, and cut the UVs, cut the edges along a loop that you think people are less likely to notice. So in this case, I cut it right in the back, right? Yeah, so for me it's the back of the leg, and as long as they match, as long as it's a nice square, it shouldn't be too noticeable. So same with this. Now I have kind of like a seam where the boot and the chin guard connect, kind of thing. But I'll be able to merge those a little bit later. So sometimes another good practice is to split your mesh up in a bunch of different pieces, unfold them, and then reconnect them again, because you'll get better results this way. So yeah, just clicking, unfolding, moving it, unfolding again. So now those line up pretty well. So I think I can merge those back together. And yeah, when you merge things together and it doesn't deform too much, right now, it'll have to deform a little bit, but it's not so bad. This way you're not getting a seam at around the ankle, which is good. So the next best thing when you you know, when you're hiding seams is to not have them at all, just like this. So again, you know, if I use a an unfold now, it'll deform a little bit crazy, so you have to be careful with it. So you have to like selectively unfold. I think that's the key takeaway here. You can't just trust the unfold. You have to think before you do it. Unfold only certain areas in certain cases. Use anchor points to make sure some UVs don't move while you unfold the rest around them. Alright, my boot is done now. So we got one piece done. Oh, actually, two pieces done. So we got the legs and the boot. And now we're gonna do the other big piece, which is the chest. So again, you see me here on the left going to select the edge loops onto the model itself rather than inside the UV editor. It's just simpler. So you can select the edges and then you go back to your UV editor and then you just click cut and it'll cut along those edges. So it's literally like you're cutting with scissors. And that's another good reason why, you know, before I was mentioning that it's really good when you do your topology to not have spirals to have like closed circles. So let's say you select a loop around your arm, right? You don't want to spiral it up. You want it to be a closed loop, and that's another reason. So when you split your UVs, where do you cut the UVs if you have a spiral? It's just not gonna work. So that's why you want to have like clean edges that are closed, so that you can you know, split your UVs properly and have the best results, and therefore have the best bakes. So here, one thing to note is when you have some mirroring going on. So right now I have like symmetry, so I am doing only one half of the hoodie. And by the way, where that half connects, I'm gonna have a seam there. So another great way to hide you know, UV seams is to have an actual like seam in the texture, right? So I'm gonna draw a seam, so you know the UV separation is gonna happen in the crevice of the seam. So it should be pretty much 100% hidden. So another way to hide your seams. Texture around it. And I was saying, I don't remember. Oh yes, of course. When you have things that are mirrored down the center like this, like the hoodie is, you want to make sure that where those edges connect, it is a straight line. So when I unfolded it, that part was all curved. So that's why I moved the verts around, rotated them, and made sure that that edge where the two sides connect is a straight line, a vertical straight line. That's pretty important. Otherwise, you'll get some nasty seams going on. It just won't bake right because the pixels are not going to be perfectly aligned like they can be if you have a straight line. All right, kind of the case that I was talking about here. You know, when you are unfolding hands and it gives a crap result, there you go. That's like the worst result you can probably get. So this is why having anchor points is super important. So as you can see here, I'm dragging kind of like the tip of the fingers where I want them to be, and then I unfold the rest, and then yeah, everything else kind of like lines up with it. So now we don't have like this abomination of a hands. But for hands, one thing that I always recommend is to have them be straight, so not wide open like this. If you're in a hurry, yeah, sure, whatever. But if you have a little bit of time and to make to make the cleanest bakes, you want your fingers to be lined up parallel to each other. And I would say that it's probably not as important for the inside of the hand, for the palm, but for the top of the hand you really want to do that. But in this case I'll just do it for both because yeah, that's just best practice. Again, that it will help in how it bakes and how it deforms, so it's a good idea to do it. So as you can see here, it's just yeah, this is like the exact process that I always do. It's just a little bit more intensive here, where you have to move things in the right position, or you know it's in the right position. You line them up. You can't trust the unfold because it won't do it right. You have to really guide it. So you place it where you want it to go. You aligned it in the direction that you want, and then you will very selectively unfold. So like this, like I'm unfolding in between the fingers like this, unfolding part of the hand, the side here, unfolding the rest. So yeah, it's you have to do it for a while to really, you know, get how good this is, how well it works. Because right now it certainly doesn't look like it's a good tool, because the unfolds that it creates is just a pile of crap. But sometimes it's actually really good. But most cases you have to put a little bit of work, but it's actually really quick. So once you get the hang out of it, once you do the unfold, and of course always use the unfold hotkey, right? So in this case, I think it's just it's click, like control click and drag up or something like that. I don't know it by heart, but well, actually I do know it by heart. It's more like a twitch reflex. I don't know what the actual thing is. Let me see. Yeah, it's a shift click and then you drag up real quick, and that will unfold UV. So that's what I've been doing. So that's why, you know, you see the verts moving on their own. That's what I do every time. It's a quick action, so you don't notice it. But yeah, so for hands, there you go. So that's pretty much what I do. You know, in the corner of the fingers there, it's not too big of a deal. But if like you have the points that are a little bit too close to each other, you want to manually spread them out. It'll just bake better. And you want your fingers to be as straight as possible. And yeah, that's kind of how I do hands. So that's how I did the palm. I'll do the top of the hand kind of in the same way. And of course, always look at your viewport to be sure that your squares are all kind of the same size. Alright, for the face, another one that's pretty important to unfold properly is, so since I did a frontal UV kind of projection here, I have an already very good base to work from. So I'm not going to be unfolding all of the heads. I'll just be unfolding kind of like the edges where the verts kind of curve back, right? So the position of the eyes, the position of the nose, the mouth, I want to keep that as is since it's correct. I just want to unfold kind of like the everything that's around it. So there we go. So you can just select a bunch of loops, convert your loop selection to UVs, and then you can unfold those UVs. And as you can see here, I get a pretty good result already. So if you look at the viewport, all the squares are pretty much the same size, of course, except on the nose, because the nose is quite a big chunk of geometry that's poking out. But it's a very bad idea to split the nose into its own UV sheet. Normally you want to have the face be all just one piece, so that you avoid having seams where there will be the most visible and the most prone to showing up, because when seams are animated, they just show even more. So you want to make sure that around the mouth here there's no kind of like faces being overlapped. You want to spread out the UVs as much as possible. That's why I have the little it's called what is it called? It's called toggle shaded UV display. That's why the UV islands are blue right now. And that's really good to spot things that are overlapped. So I would always recommend that you work in this mode. It will show you things that are overlapping. It'll show you things that are that have the UVs inverted, or if the mesh is inverted itself, it'll show you that as well. You can just pick up a lot of stuff that you didn't before, during that step. Yeah, so things to look for here, like the corner of the eye is going to be a problem. And you want to make sure to use as much space as possible, but to keep the eyes, in the shape of an eye, because it's really easy to deform this, to unfold this, and then it just looks like an alien. So if you're going to paint your textures in Photoshop, or part of the textures in Photoshop, it makes it a lot harder to kind of paint and have a good idea of what it's going to look like in the end. If your unfold, like if your UV layout is just like a monster. So here's what I'm doing, selecting a bunch of edges, converting the edges to a UV selection, and then unfolding that. Yeah, it's looking pretty good. So I'm gonna pretty much keep the face as is. What I want to do is just move the verts that are the UVs that are way too close, or overlapping, as is the case here. That's gonna create some problems. Like, this is the inside of the eye, so it really doesn't matter. It's just more like I want everything to be clean. But this one, like the corner there, yeah, you really want to make sure those are unfolded properly, because that will create some artifacts and you can never fix it. You have to go back to your mesh, fix the UVs, and then rebake, and it's a nightmare. So yeah, spread those out as much as possible. Make sure there's no overlapping. If there is, you'll see it's like this bright blue like you just saw. And then I'll be able to connect the ears. And yeah, pretty much do everything else. And then towards the end, you just, try to use as much space as possible. All right, and then yeah, we're almost done with this. So this is the fun part, I think, where you get to place things around and move stuff around, and it's really rewarding when it just fits perfectly, when all the pieces, like, they use all the areas available. So yeah, always start with the bigger pieces, the more important ones that you know will need a lot of space, and then, like, you know, go piece by piece, using smaller and smaller pieces as you go, to kind of fill the gaps in between. So it's you know, if you're good at puzzles, you should be pretty good at this. And if you're really good at this, you should be really good at puzzles, right? So those that I was keeping on the side there, those are all the kind of like the back faces that nobody will ever see. So it really doesn't matter if they use any UV, you know, UV texture at all. But if there is some room for them, why not? Why not give it, you know? Like, I don't think I could use my UV sheet in a better way right now. I must say this is quite a masterpiece. Everything fits. Beautiful. All right, so now that we have UVs for our character, what we're going to be doing is setting this Maya file up, setting the object up for import into Substance Painter. So in Substance, we're going to be basically doing pretty much the rest of the process. Substance is really good to bake. It's awesome to paint in it. And we basically can do, yeah, pretty much the whole rest of the process. But there are some things that we need to do first to be able to import that properly and, you know, successfully be able to bake our content, because that is the next step. So first things first is I want to bring back the rest of my mesh, right? So I deleted everything initially to be able to do UVs a little bit more easily, to know, you know, to just be left with what I needed. But now we need to bring that mesh back. So what I'll be doing is piece by piece, just you know, combining things like this. I'm going to combine the legs and the boots, and then we're going to duplicate that on the other side. Control Shift D in this case, and there we go. Now we can merge those two things. So because right now one is the instance of the other one, and we don't want that. We want to be we want this to be just one mesh. Then we'll also want to, actually I can hide the texture because that's going to help a little bit. And then we can see here the because those are two separate objects still, they are, you know, combined, but the mesh itself, you know, if I double click here, you can see, actually I got rid of high quality as well. But since the verts are not combined, it's still two meshes. So what I'll be doing is going to vertex mode, selecting all that stuff, and then doing a D. So that's my shortcut to merge. What is it? Merge vertex tool, or is it just merge? Yeah, this is it. This is the merge vertices options. So that I have this set up to D, so whenever I press D, you know, like it just does that with that particular threshold, which is really low, so that it doesn't combine, and things like these two here like won't get combined, because otherwise the threshold, if the threshold was a little bit bigger, higher, like these two would combine. And right now it combines pretty much everything that's just on top of each other. So if we go back and then double click on this, now this is one object, and I can do a smooth on that. There we go. We get rid of that that seam. So yeah, the legs are back. Belt buckle, no need to do anything there. Now I'm gonna bring back the arm. So Control D. Now it's back on the other side. Something with the gauntlet, shoulder, and now we need to duplicate the hoodie as well. Alright, now pretty much everything is back except the head, so I'm gonna hide this And we are going to select the thing that we need to duplicate. So in this case, it's this island right here. Select this whole thing right here. And actually, yeah, we're not gonna do that. We're gonna select just what we need, basically. So this is this thing here, and this here. So everything we deleted previously, basically, we want to re-add like this. I think that's it. Yeah, that looks good. Alright, so those are all the faces missing on the other side of the face. And what we're gonna do here is go into mesh, extract, so that we can duplicate that on the other side. Oh no, we missed two pieces. We missed a row. Alright, let's undo and select the missing faces, and then do that again. So mesh, extract, and now we can duplicate that on the other side, and there we go. So now we're good to go, and we can actually select everything now and merge it all, and then do the same thing. Select, what is that? I get an artifact here. Let's delete that. Alright, so everything is selected. Let's go to vert. What is going on? Maya's starting to go a little bit crazy here. I think I should probably save, because that's not a good sign when it starts to do this kind of stuff. So I will save the file, and it might crash. Let me do a quick delete history. Maybe the stack is starting to be a little bit too big. Alright, now it should be good. Alright, so now we're gonna do the same thing again. Select everything and do a D, which is going to merge all the verts that are on top of each other. Do a smooth, and as we can see, all the seams are gone now, so it's successful. So there we go. Now we have the mesh is back into one piece. Everything is nicely done, and then we saved a bunch of space on the UVs. So there we go. Now we're gonna do the same thing for the glasses and the eyes. So D, Control D. These we're gonna merge. These we're gonna merge as well. And then D for the center. Merge those as well. Alright, so now I can smooth that up. Smooth. To get rid of that little seam here. Alright, so now it's starting to look pretty good. We are pretty much done except the inside of the mouth, right? So we can't forget that. So we're gonna do the same thing here, Control D, and then yeah, all the stuff is now merged properly. The teeth we're gonna and finally the inside of the mouth. Okay, and we'll do the same thing again. Merge the center, select the verts, merge the verts, do that for all the pieces, and then smooth them up. Smooth, smooth, smooth. Smooth at this point is not really necessary, but it's more to be able to see if the mesh is properly connected, because if it's not connected, you'll see that seam still. But in this case, it looks pretty good. I'm gonna go back and assign the basic Lambert shader to everything. Alright. Display, show all. And I'm going to be merging those two as well. Merging those verts. Merging the verts for the hoodie as well. Don't want to forget anything. Okay. Alright, I think the last piece is the yeah, the chest piece here. We want to make sure that we bring those straps back again. So we're going to select those in the UV editor so that we can easily isolate all the faces, and then we can go ahead and extract that, select those two, combine, and duplicate on the other side. Alright, and then select everything and combine everything. And we can't forget to merge to weld the verts. And then we can do a smooth, and everything is nicely connected. Alright, and we're pretty much done for that part. So now the mesh is back together. It looks pretty good. What we're going to be doing too is move. I'm not sure this is 100% necessary. This is more of a like a safety measure, I guess, to be able to export in all kinds of apps, all kind of different programs. If you want to bake in something else, let's say you want to bake in XNormal, for example, or if you want to bake in Maya, or anything else. Normally, you'll want to not have anything, not have any of the UVs kind of overlapping, because then it'll bake twice, and that just creates a bunch of artifacts, and you can't use that. So you'll want to only have. So everything that's double, basically, we are going to be putting it on like another square, like on the side here. I'm not sure in Substance if that matters. Doesn't really matter. So I always do it anyways, just in case, if I was to try to bake into something else. It's just it's like a really, really quick step, especially in Maya. So it's always good to do that. So what I am going to do, I just noticed there's a hole in here, so I'm going to click that, bring that up. Like that. Alright, that's better. Okay, yeah, so I'm going to combine everything. I'm going to check real quick to make sure there's nothing inverted. So go face normal, show face normal, and make sure that all the little spikes are going outwards and there's nothing inside the mesh. Looks pretty good, I think. Yeah, everything is pointing out in the right direction. So let's say you had something like this. I'm gonna invert them. When you see this, when you see like the face kind of like going inwards, so like you're gonna see kind of like as if you just shaved, right? Like a bunch of little like stubble. It means that your normals are inverted on that particular piece, so you want to make sure that those are out, just like that. So nice and hairy everywhere. That's good to go. So we can hide that again, save, and all right, that looks good. So we are going to be clicking on everything that is overlapping in here. So you can see like there's two colors, right? Like the kind of like the lighter, like redder purple, and then the darker, like colder purple. This means that they are overlapped in a different way. So what you can do is try first. Okay, so yeah, so when it's like a lighter color, when it's closer to red, what you're selecting when you click the first time is the actual like the left region in this case, which is the one that we want to keep. So this is not what we want to move. We want to move the other one. So that's kind of annoying that it does that. But so what you can do here is that everything that's like the blue or purple, we can just click on all these things, like select one vert for each, just click, 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 like that, and then we know for sure that it's going to be selecting the right side of the UVs. And we want to do that for everything, all the different pieces that have the same color. I think that's it. Yep. Alright, then we go to shell, select everything to shell. And I'm going to move this, make that a little bit smaller. And what we can do is go in here, bring up the script editor, and then we can go to Mel. And when you move these things, what I do is I just nudge it a little bit, so you get like basically the line here telling you, giving you the script to move things. So now it's moving it by 0.04, right? So that's not good. What we want to do is just move it by 1. So what I can do is undo that, and then I'll still be able to select that thing here, copy that, paste it in here, and then just go vertically. We want that to stay at 0, and then here we're going to do -1 and hit enter on that. Let's do it on the other side instead. So we're going to leave it at 1. So there we go. Hit enter on the keypad. Boom. And then all these UVs are nicely moved by 1 kind of like quadrant. And that is that. So we can hide that again. And then we're going to do kind of like the same thing, but for the other pieces. So all of these. So yeah, so what you want to do for this is you click it and then you shift select, so it selects like the one underneath basically. So you want to do that for all of this. Kind of annoying, but that is life. Click. Okay, I think we got everything. No, we're missing one. Alright, then we go to shell, and then we can move that and see. There we go. So all that's left is the glasses here, but since there's a I mean, we're not gonna bake anything on here. Actually, yeah, we're not gonna bake anything, so this really doesn't matter. I'm just gonna leave it as is, because this is gonna be transparent, because it's the glass for the glass part for the glasses. So we're not gonna bake anything on here because I think it's gonna look alright, just the way it is, because it's really thin. So yeah, we're gonna undo that move again. We're gonna bring up the script editor and then kind of do the same thing. So copy the thing again. I think it's up here somewhere. Yeah, there we go. Do that, hit enter, and there we go. So now everything that was duplicated is everything that was overlapping is now on the other side. So we got a nice clean UV square to be able to bake. So we're gonna save that to be sure that we're not gonna lose any work, and then we can close it, close that as well. So now all the UVs are done for sure. The model is ready to bake, but there are a couple things that we want to do first, as I said, to be able to import that successfully into Substance Painter. Two things. So we want to there's, you know, when you bake things, to be sure that you don't get artifact, because, you know, when you bake something, if what it does basically is like it creates a shell around the piece, and it will kind of you know, try to bake everything that's close to that shell. So if you have like things like this where like there's two different shells, so let me split that up. So this is one object, this is another object, but if you know, if you leave it like that and you have like the two pieces kind of like intersecting, we are going to get a lot of artifacts along that line here where the two connect, because the two objects are not going to know when each other kind of ends. So what you want to do to avoid those kind of artifacts is, normally you want to just explode your mesh. So you'll select the high and the low, and you'll want to move those pieces away like this, so that's, you know, they're kind of like on their own, so they don't intersect with anything else. You get some really nice bakes without artifacts. So yeah, the first thing, oh, actually I forgot something. Yeah, I forgot to combine those two right here. So I'm gonna do that. Get rid of those seams on the shoulders. Combine all of that, and soften it. Okay. Now we're good to go. So what I want to do first is delete the history on that and get rid of any kind of like remaining garbage left in the scene. Delete that. Alright, and I'm gonna get that out of that group because there's no need for this to be in a group. Ungroup, oops, unparent. I can delete the parent. Okay, so now everything is in here. All the low poly pieces are in there, so I'm gonna group them and name them properly. So actually I can do like everything that's kind of separate. So like this, you know, could be baked as one piece without a problem because nothing intersects, so everything is like nicely split up. So I'm gonna do that for the hands, the gauntlets, the shoulders, the boots, the belt buckle, why not, and the glasses. And so I want to have as fewer pieces as possible. It's just easier to manage. And the upper teeth. Okay, so I'm gonna group that and call it like armor. Armor low. Alright, and I'm gonna delete the history to get rid of everything else. Then we can hide that. Now we're left with the body. So I'm gonna select the body and the lower teeth. Is that it? There we go. So I think this is it right here. Yep. Okay, so I'm gonna select that with the rest of the body and the glasses, I guess, although it's not really needed. Let's do the eyes instead. So there we go. So that's going to be another group. And then again, we can delete history. And we're gonna call that body low. And we can hide it to know what's left. And what is left is actually, you know what? For the shoulders here, we can easily include the hoodie as well because it's not connected to anything. Yeah, let's do that. So we're gonna combine that. Delete the history, then name it again, armor low, and hide that. Alright, so we're left with this, and that can be just one piece, this whole thing. Actually, I'm going to combine the inside of the mouth with everything else so that it's connected. There's no reason, at this point, there's no reason why it shouldn't. So we're going to connect that again. And then go to verts and merge those verts. Alright, so that is one piece. So select that and the chest, and then we can combine that. Delete history and call it head. Head low. And we're left with this. And that's fine because none of this is going to be baked. The eyes are going to be just transparent. And they're high poly enough that we don't need to have normal map on that. It should be fine on its own. This is going to be transparent. This is going to be transparent, and the tongue is going to be just like red, shiny red, kind of like. No need to bake anything on there because whatever, you don't see it too often anyway. So yeah, we're pretty much done. So this we can leave out actually. So I'm not gonna. Can I include this with something? Yeah, so I'll include it with the armor. This goes into body low. Body low. And then we have this left. We can just all merge that to one piece. Go to history and call that armor low. And then we're good to go. So now we have the 3 different groups. So those are going to be the 3 different objects that are going to bake. We'll have to do the same thing with the high poly. So we'll have to import that into the scene. But first I want to do something while the scene is really light again. What I want to do is assign materials to this, because in Substance we're going to have 2. I don't want to complicate this too much, so we're going to have only 2 different materials. One for pretty much everything, and then the other one for everything that is like transparent, so all the glass, so the eyes and the lens. And yeah, everything else is going to be another material. So we're going to have 2 materials basically. And what this means is that we have to, I'm going to show Control H to show this. So these 2 meshes, so the eyes and the lens, I want to have those be different materials. So right now, if we go Control A, they are like just what is it? Lambert 1, right? So I'm gonna select that whole thing and assign a new material. So it can be anything. It doesn't really matter. So in this case, it's gonna be blend, and I'm gonna do the same thing with the eyes here, the mesh for the so right here, and then we're gonna go ahead and assign the same blend to it. Okay, and I think that's it. There's no other glass or anything like that. So when we export that, Substance Painter should be able to pick this up and know that those are 2 different materials. So we're gonna have the two materials in Painter to be able to edit them separately. Okay, the low is good to go. So now we're gonna be importing the high poly. So what we did at first, we decimated the crap out of the model, because we had we wanted to do the retopo, and then in TopoGun, it's good to have kind of like the high poly, but not too high, otherwise it slows down a little bit too much. So now we're gonna actually open up the file again. There we go. And then we're gonna decimate all of that stuff again, but not as aggressively. So if I were to import this like 16 million polygon, 16 million, you double that, and that's like 30 something triangles in Maya. That's gonna kill Maya big time, and I don't want that. I want to be able to work in there still. So we are going to actually, you can probably combine everything. You know what? I forgot something. I forgot these things here. Totally forgot that. So that's annoying. So now that I've done everything, but it's fine because it's really small and doesn't take much room in the UVs. So we can sneak those in pretty easily. Alright, whatever. I'm gonna export this real quick. I'm gonna get this over with. This is one of those frustrations. You always forget one little thing, and then it's just you have to go back to it. Kind of annoying. Alright, now in TopoGun, we are going to load the ref. So laces, high or low, whatever. Alright, and we're gonna retopo that really quick. Alright, there we go. So yeah, short and sweet, there we go. Now I'm gonna, nope, save scene as. is low. Alright, I'm gonna give it some thickness. It's not really needed, but since we have the budget for it, so might as well. Just a little bit of thickness like that. Okay, so this should do it. You can soften that. Display, show all. And then I'm gonna do the UVs. I'm gonna create UVs. Okay, so there we go. So now I'm going to be adding that to everything else. Try to find a spot for it on the UV sheet somewhere. So since it's really small and kind of just like this long piece, I can sneak it in there without a problem, which is good. So thank God this wasn't like a big piece that I forgot, because that would have been a much bigger pain in the butt. But in this case, no big deal. I can just sneak it in here. There we go. Plenty of space for it. And I'm going to duplicate that on the other side, combine those two. And now select the red part, bring up the script editor one final time. Okay, so now we're ready to go. So I'm gonna save that. Alright, now the missing piece has been added. Now we can go back and resume what we were trying to do in the first place. So decimating the mesh. And then I'm just gonna go ahead and kind of like make sure that their name's not the same, because otherwise it's not gonna be able to decimate properly. So I'm just gonna change the names here to whatever, you know, like it can be anything. I just don't want them to be the same. Okay, now that everything has a different name, should be able to decimate all of them at once without a problem. So let's check that out. Decimation master. Let's go ahead and pre-process all of them. So now it'll do its thing. Okay, and then a few years later, it should be done. We are going to now decimate all of that stuff. So 16 million, yeah, 20% should be pretty good. I mean, it's still gonna be pretty heavy still, but should be a good number. Should be something that Maya can handle. So again, it's gonna go and reduce all of them one by one, all the different subtools. So you can see the total points, you know, up there in the menu, kind of like slowly dropping. All right, now it's done. So we're down to 2.5 millions, which is it's gonna be what, about 7 in Maya. That should be okay. It's a little bit heavy, but at least like this, we're gonna maintain all of the details. We're gonna have too many artifacts, so it should be good. That should be a good bake. Okay, so what I am going to do is combine all of these things. So I'm gonna merge all the different subtools. Merge down, yes. So I'm gonna merge all the subtools into one, and then one more thing that I forgot is to bring in the teeth and decimate those. I don't think they were really high, so maybe I don't need to decimate them. Let's just see. So I'm gonna file, save as the new decimated version. So it's called decimated. And then I'm going to open the file for the teeth and export those. Yeah, I can decimate that a little bit. It's a bit high. Pre-process current. Alright, so that's more like it. So 79, 80,000. So we're gonna export that into teeth high, and then we can just open our decimated file and then import those in there. So we have everything in the same file. So I go append, something, whatever, sphere. Then I'm going to import the teeth high. Alright, so the teeth now should be in there. There we go. So I am going to combine those two now. Merge down. Okay, and now I have my model here. That's good to go. So I'm going to export that into character high. And so now we can go back into Photoshop, into Maya, I mean, and import the high poly. So character high, import that in. So what we're gonna do here is put that. Actually, we need to add those little laces to some sort of group. So the laces is going to go into not this one. Yeah, that group, because it's not touching anything. So that's fine. So that's the body low. Body low. Alright, can get rid of that. The group is no longer good, and then we have the high poly here, so I'm gonna group everything that's low poly into a low group, and then this group here is gonna be called high, and for now it's just one mesh. I'm gonna show it. And the low I am going to put on a separate layer. So we can manage that a little bit more easily. Whatever, low one. And I'm going to go ahead and add selected object, and then we can hide them, hide the visibility, and then create a new empty layer. Call that one high. Probably going to give me the same result, the same problem, so I'll call it high 1, because the group in here is already called high, so Maya doesn't like it when things are called the same. And I'm going to grab that, and well, for now it doesn't really matter, but so what I want to do first is to split that up, because right now it's just one mesh. I want to be able to group it the same way as I did for the low poly, so I'm going to go ahead and go click mesh extract, mesh separate. So it'll take a few seconds because the mesh is a little bit heavy, and once it succeeds, it will remove all the new parts from any layer that it was previously in. So that's why I didn't add it to the layer just yet, because, or did I? Whatever, because it's kind of pointless. So you have to add them again to the layer whenever you combine or separate objects, because they don't remember what layers they were assigned to, because they're suddenly new objects. But yeah, so we're almost done here. I'm going to delete the history on that, add everything to the layer again, and then we can hide it. There we go. So I'm gonna get rid of that other group on parent, get rid of that group, rename this one high. Alright, and now we're going to combine a couple things in here. So let's see what we had. First, I'm just going to go group by group and kind of just do it like that. So I'm going to hide those two groups so that this one is left, and then we're going to select the same pieces in the high poly. So that is what? The pants, the shirt. Pants. Can I hide the low for now? So I'm gonna select all those things and combine them again. The lower teeth as well, right? Yeah. Lower teeth and eyeballs. So you can see the decimation created a bunch of, like, a few artifacts like this, and this is gonna translate into the bake, so we'll have to clean that up a little bit later, unfortunately. But that's fine. That's part of the game, you know, like this here as well. So yeah, a bunch of artifacts a little bit all over the place, but that's not too hard to fix. We can just paint those out pretty quickly. This is a little bit uglier. Since we don't see it too much, it shouldn't be that big of a deal to clean up. But yeah, that's pretty bad. That's pretty bad. This would not happen if the decimation wasn't as hard, or if I decimated from the high, because I decimated an already decimated object, so that's why I created a little bit more artifact. That's still fine. I just want to make sure that there's nothing too crazy going on, because if there is, I'll have to rebake. But I think it's fine. I think it's small things that I can easily paint over. Yeah, most of the high poly is pretty good, so that's acceptable. So I think we are good to go for that one. So I'm gonna go ahead and combine all those pieces and call it body high, just like the low poly. So again, when I combine those, it's gonna kick it out of the group, so I'll have to re-add it every time. Yeah, a little bit annoying, but such is Maya. Alright, delete the history, add it back to the high layer, and then we're going to do the same thing for the rest. So the other pieces, do the exact same process. Hide that, show that, and then yeah, rinse, repeat until we're done. Alright, so a couple things now. So I I organized everything into 3 different groups, and the reason being is that this is, it simplifies when I want to bake exploded maps, so bake exploding meshes. So what we're going to be doing is exploding the mesh. So we are going to take the high for the head and moving that to the side, doing the same thing for the armor only, moving that forward. And now what I should have now is a bunch of different meshes that are all separate, so they're gonna bake fine, and there shouldn't be any kind of artifact going on. Or there might be some artifacts like within the mesh itself, but not there should be no artifacts onto the other meshes. So I think that looks pretty good. Yeah, so let's go ahead and export that as the high. Actually, yeah, so let's export that as the high as a whole. I'm gonna go ahead, export, just go ahead, export obj. I'm gonna call it high. And then we're gonna do the same thing. We're gonna export the low. And this is just for to get the initial bakes. After that, we're gonna re-export the character as a non-exploded version. What I will do is export that as the low. All right, and then I'm gonna undo the move that we did. Bring them back to their original spots, just like that. And I'm gonna export the high and call it like a high 2, I guess. And then do the same thing for the low. Actually, edit, file, export selection. So I had this unselected. So when you export, if I want the region map, the regions to work, I have to export the material. So that's something that I did not have checked. But all right, so let's launch Substance Painter now.